Monday.
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
I think that's a good question. Where
I don't know where you are. All I know is I luckily dressed in seaside blue with a seaside blue necklace.
Oh, okay, I got you.
It's just a feeling that I had, but I have no idea where you are. But it looks like there's water.
Yeah, there is water.
Brian?
Sort of a what's that?
Hi, Michael Bryan. Welcome to Justice Serve TV.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
We did a little impromptu "Where in the World is Justice?" just for the heck of it, because we want to give away a mug to the first person who identifies where in the world I am, the justice. In this particular case, I give you a little bit of a kind of a pan around here. I will tell you it's a river before I get into the story as to what may tip you off as to where I am and what's going on. And besides, most of the time in the last few weeks, the where in the world would be easy because it was, Canton or Dedham, Massachusetts. So that was not really challenging for anybody. So we figured, let's try something different.
And not only that, remember when you were in Florida and you were riding the suitcase down the at the courthouse? Do you know what happened?
I vaguely remember that. What's
you know
that?
What happened? Where in the World's Justice? Lady Gaga, when she hosted Saturday Night Live last week, and we should make a meme of this. Guess what she had? She was riding a suitcase.
No,
like you.
She was.
Yes,
really?
Yes, I kid you not. Everyone in the chat, please tell Michael that's what happened. We're going to have to get the two side by side. I think that Saturday Night Live was watching Justice Serve TV. Where in the world?
Of course they were. I wish it's so blinding out here, to be honest with you. It's so blinding. I'm not sure I can see much of anything because I do have, somebody wants to see that. I have that.
Yeah, you're also froze for
a
little bit of time. Hi, everybody. Micah says it's a true story. Yeah, absolutely. Somebody wants to know, are you in Rhode Island? That's Coco. Sheila Duffy is on. Disney Nerd is on, Afton is on, Shy Gal is on, To Making It Count is on, Coco says Cape Cod, Coco is on the water, very smart, Nancy,
very
Cape
nice.
Cod Canal, Oasis Cat, hi Disney Nerd again, hi Prince Lover, Christine, I'm going to go up and 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 up. There's so many people here. Go on, try John Courtney. Hello, John Courtney. You're here to win a mug too. Everybody, the DA's office this is the best one. Are you at the DA's office? Are you arrested?
Am I back? You got me back or not?
I got you back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell a story about this location. What happened here? It was back in the 1800s, but it's famous for, among other things, giving us that phrase "stranger danger," and it's a horrible story. This is not a happy story. But it is true crime, and we cover stuff that isn't exactly, fun at times. So here's the deal. Not far from where I am right now, and again, this is a river. I'll even tell you it's the Hudson River, okay? Not far from where we are.
Wait a second, you're in the Hudson River?
The Hudson River. Not far from here is a home that was identified, even when it was sold a few years ago, as the Wisteria Cottage, okay? Every time I give you a little bit of a tidbit, I know you're going to be hitting the internet to find out what happened.
Google, at times like this, Google is your friend.
Yes, Google is flying. Fingers are flying right now. There was a guy who befriended all kinds of families and their children, and to the degree that, again, and this was in the 1800s. Actually, it was just after the turn of the century. And this guy would befriend the family members to the point that they would trust their kids with him, like he was a grandpa, right? Well, there was one little girl in this town who was effectively entrusted to this man, and it was the last time anybody saw her. When they finally apprehended the defendant, who was in this house just not far from here that sold a few years ago for about $1 million, they found this horrific scene and nothing that they could really even identify as the remains of this little girl.
People are putting the name of the defendant in the chat, I think.
Okay. What I need is, and it is Albert Fish, you see that, I need the town. That's what I need. I need the town. This little girl was taken away and ultimately killed by this man. And this is the gruesome part. He was a cannibal. So Yeah, he was a cannibal, and he bragged how it took him 7 days to finish off this little girl. So just up the river here is a little town called Ossining, and most people would be aware that the big prison is there, Sing Sing, right?
Right.
It's still there, but they don't have the death penalty here in New York anymore. But they did at that time, and this gentleman, Albert Fish, my train's here, I gotta go. Albert Fish was put to death in Old Sparky. They called the electric chair at Sing Sing up the road here. It's about 30 minutes up the river, and that was the end of Albert Fish. And this young girl, Grace Budd, was the victim of this guy. She was 10 years old at the time. Horrible story. And the house it's on a road called Mountain Road in this little town. And so we're looking for the name of the little town. Did anybody give us that yet?
Okay, so we have a lot of Albert Fish. We have a lot of Grace Budds. We have New York. Let's see. Come on, anyone? Irvington?
So who said that?
First one was Micah. Second one was Brooklyn, right?
Okay. Then whoever said Irvington is correct. Irvington, New York. And so make a note of that, Missy. Whoever got that first, I can't officially tell who was first, second, third, or fourth.
They're both at 5:35.
Oh my gosh, we may have a double mugging. Is that Brooklyn, as in Brooklyn, the one that we already sent a mug to? Is that right? If so, that's going to make it challenging to.
Hey, and Micah, do you have a mug?
I don't think Micah has a mug. No. No.
Yeah, I don't see anything. I think those are the first two. You can police yourself. First two said Irvington. Micah was first. Brooklyn was second in terms of the order.
In terms of the way they came in. Well, we're gonna have to call. We're gonna have to call on the judges for. I mean, if we want to send Brooklyn another mug so that Brooklyn has a matched set.
I've never heard of Grace Budd and Albert Fish in New York. I mean, that's a horrible story.
It is a horrible story. And there were a number of victims. Yeah, and Stranger Danger kind of evolved out of that because.
Well, how many victims, Michael?
Oh, now I'm gonna have to check my notes on that.
No, but I guess like when all of us were growing up, when our mom and dad would tell us, "Don't go with strangers."
Of course.
Maybe this is something. This whole idea of not only I assume that he was. I hate to say this, sexually assaulted these young women.
No, apparently not. Apparently not. I do not have his total victim count. I thought, as I was reading many different articles, I thought it was in excess of 10, but you guys check me on that.
Wow, Irvington, New York. I've never even heard of it. I mean, Ossining is famous, and Ossining you can get some of the best property values because it's on the Hudson. It's beautiful. It has a train.
Let me put on my broker hat now, having done brokering in the Westchester. This is Westchester County. Ossining for many years, for the reason Sing Sing was really kind of looked down upon, even though it's beautiful right on the river here. This is not Ossining, this is Irvington, which is right down the river. But more recently, as prices have become outrageous in places like Irvington, and they call this the river towns, Irvington, right. Dobbs Ferry, Hastings on Hudson. The average homes here are about $1.4 million, $1.5 million. So you can go up to Ossining for less than $1 million and get a place that's on a village on the river. So they've overcome this this blight that is Sing Sing prison. Yeah. No. Just and by the way, there's a new documentary out about Sing Sing called Sing Sing about somebody who's wrongfully in prison there. Exactly. Right. And it's if you have not seen it, it's a wonderful, wonderful documentary drama. Yeah, up for a number of Academy Awards. I don't think it won any. I don't think it won, but yeah, it had the category, and it's truly, anyone who's wrongfully convicted for like 30 years and then comes out and is like, open your arms to the world and I forgive everybody. That wouldn't be me. Yep. So that's the story I've got for you, and that's where the world is justice today. We have a bit of a throwback to this area, but a very important story, and still rings true today with Stranger Danger. People know exactly what that means now. Yeah, and the Wisteria Cottage, you said, has been renovated and sold for about $1 million. Yeah, it's about 2,500 square foot home. Very typical of a lot of the homes in the area here. It's on a road called Mountain Road. And if you didn't know it, you wouldn't know it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like you drive by and it's got a neon sign flashing. Wow. Yeah. Well, and that's all. Well, while you were traveling, because we hadn't done a Where in the World is Justice for a while, because you've been going back and forth to Canton and Dedham and Staunton. And by the way, Sui Generis, thank you, Sui Generis. Great handle.
donation to your channel now, both
Thank
of
you.
you. Free Karen Reed. While we were away, by the way, I don't know if we have them up. We do want to give ourselves a little pat on the back. As you know, Aidan Kearney was on with us last night, and a lot of you joined. We for 2 hours, 9 to 11, to ask a lot of questions. He was a wonderful guest, Dr. Turtle Boy, and all. And please follow him. But we had a lot of pats on the back for having a terrific interview with him. Let's just start. And we're just going to show a few of them, just because. Just south of history, Dr. Turtle Boy, your interview. Let me see if I can read this with my notes. Your interview was wonderful tonight on Justice Serve TV with Kenny Bod and The Legal Edge. Linda and Michael were so incredibly impressive. And as usual, so were you. Free Karen Reed and free Daddy. All right. So thank you for watching. And here was another one, Andrea Healy 10. If you guys missed this, it's a must watch. By the way, it's on our YouTube channel. Probably one of my favorite interviews with Dr. Turtleboy, Kenny Biden, a great show. Yes, absolutely. There was a number of other ones that we had and that we tried to repost some of them, only because I think it brings everybody to see Aidan in a very professional manner. He was terrific. He answered all of our questions. We learned a lot about him. We learned a lot about the case. We learned a lot about his case. We learned a lot about the effect on his life. And so if you haven't seen it, go to our YouTube channel. It's there. James Dawson said, and it says, I've watched many interviews with Aidan, they were always incredible to watch, but this was by far the best to date, which also showed what an amazing guy he really is. Great job, guys.
Yeah, I was intimidated at first because, he is the great intimidator, but because he put on a nice sport coat for the occasion, and I was underdressed. But I have been posting, and will continue to post. We talked for about 2 hours. Sometimes people can't devote that time, so we've excerpted some of the more important stuff. The one that we sent out today had to do with the status of the latest witness intimidation charge. As you know, that happened when we were up there last time. It happened just down the street from where his friend Will and I had been talking at McCarthy's bar.
It's Will the Glairer.
With the Glairer, yes. Will. That is supposed to go in front of the judge next Tuesday, but we're just not sure yet because Aidan suggested they may be working out a continuance, or as they call it, in New York, they call them adjournments. In California, we call them continuances. I can't remember what they call them. In Massachusetts, I'm sure they've got some funky name for them. But anyway, they think that might be worked out. If so, it won't be heard that day. But on Tuesday is all of these motions in limine that we've been talking about. And so we'll be there for that. And we'll be snooping around. I got to go see that camera in front of DE Pizzas, get a shot of that, maybe make a statement because we know it's being recorded. So we'll be there for that next week, regardless of what happens with Turtle Boy.
Yes.
Oh, and tomorrow we're going to have, and I know you have breaking news. I don't have my breaking news ready to go.
We have
breaking news about Turtle Boy and
yes,
the Karen Reed trial. We talk about that, even though he didn't know it was happening. We talk about him as a witness. We do that. That'll run first thing tomorrow morning. But tell us what the deal is.
The breaking news is that the Commonwealth released their witness list today. We have retweeted it. Missy Mayhem has retweeted it already. But one of the witnesses, guess who? Aidan Kearney. Now, we assume that. You know why we assumed that, you and I, before we asked him that? One, because they're trying to get these phones, right? Two, because if he's in the courtroom with these motions to sequester, he won't be able to, he can't talk to anybody, right? He can't talk to anyone who could be a witness. So how does that affect his journalistic privilege? I think it's not only that they want to try to argue that for some reason he's in collusion to do something wrong with Karen Reed, but I think they want to keep him from having access to all the people that are in trial. Now, he would love to go on the stand, but the problem is, are they doing this because he's really a witness or because they want to just keep him out of the way?
Yeah, and there may be a nefarious reason for it, but let's just back off that for a moment. We know that if he is not listed as a potential, remember, these are potential witnesses. You're not bound to bring these people just because you list them. But if you do not list them, get ready for a rash of how you say shit from the other side, because you are having, oh, it's a surprise witness. We didn't have this on your list. So out of an abundance of caution, you got to list anybody you think you might be calling. So I don't know if they're going to call him or not, but he's on the list.
Yeah. So Lissy B, thank you for the Australian $7.99 donation. New sub. Yes, new sub from Australia. Miss Shorty. Yes, we know.
Miss
We love you
Shorty.
guys too. Turtle Boy interview was brilliant. Both of you are so easy to watch. Free Karen Reed with a heart emoji after it. Thank you very much. I don't think they want to call him. I just think they want to keep him out of the way. I think this is bullshit.
Trying to
okay?
screw him over. Right? Just mess with him. Like, that's consistent with what's been happening. No doubt about that.
Right. And as besides the fact, he didn't even know. So if you don't know your witness, you would think that if your witness, somebody from the DA's office would have spoken to you already or spoken to your attorneys. He had no idea. He said, if I am, they'll bring it on, put me on the stand. But that's
he's
not
so
the
excited
issue.
about it. Yeah.
He would be excited about it. The issue is whether or not they keep him away from everything, and then also keep him away by keeping his case in play and saying, you can't have access within 300 feet of anybody, right? Because you've been arrested. You did 60 days in jail for intimidation of the witness, which we all called I called bullshit, as they said, and you called bullshit.
Yes, I think.
Excuse me, that's a technical legal word, guys. In case you haven't heard it, just like cover your ears.
So,
so that's the breaking news there.
The immediate impact is he can't go into the trial and watch. That's the most immediate impact.
Right. That's a pretty immediate impact, especially since then he's going to have to, they don't have an overflow room for journalists even. And then if he can't watch, how is he reporting on it?
Yeah, well, what he's going to do is what, folks like me do, is he's going to have to, he'll probably go across the street to the registry department where all of the Karen Reed supporters hang, and they'll watch it as it's broadcast. That's what he'll do. So he'll get to see it, but there's a whole different thing. You've been in courtrooms. I've been in courtrooms, both putting on cases and observing. It's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
And if you're reporting on it, the better to do so is in the courtroom. So, and that's what's he's really going to be totally screwed if what they do is they just list him, right? They never intend to call him and never do call him.
Right. And then just to screw with him. Right. And that's what I think. That's why I asked the question last night. So we have cut that piece, and that's going to run tomorrow, 10 a.m.?
Yeah, tomorrow 10 a.m. that'll launch, yeah.
We have cut that piece. That's going to launch a separate piece. So be aware of it. Look for Justice Serve TV. If you hit that subscribe button, you should get a notification when it comes, although I don't get notifications all the time.
Yeah, don't take that personally.
Yeah, well, I love our viewers. It's great that you're all here. Yes, I mean, I just think it'd be interesting to get Aidan's reaction. I'm sure he's going to give his reaction tonight, and all. And remember, this is in light of the fact that Tuesday he is supposed to also have a hearing, which may get adjourned, as you pointed out, on that new charge for the intimidation, which I can't wait for you to go to D&E and look at those cameras, because I'm sure everything you reported on in front of there when you were there has been recorded too, Michael.
Yes, I'm sure I was articulating everything so that it could be picked up properly. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I didn't know it at the time, but I don't know. I might have a case.
Not only that, imagine how many law enforcement officers were watching our show or have rewatched our show that he was on last night. Is there a hint of something he said? Could something that he said be, used against Karen Reed?
That's very interesting. That this comes out within hours of his appearance. It's very interesting.
Right. Where we specifically asked the question. All right.
Yeah, where he specifically was excited, as you'll see tomorrow, if you haven't seen it already.
Right.
With the prospect of going head to head with Hanky, as he calls him.
Yeah. So I mean that's anyhow. It just it boggles my mind. But there was other breaking news, because there was another motion filed today, Michael. I know you have the lowdown on that.
This one, is the motion for reconsideration, and we've talked about this before. How it's like, mom says go to bed at 10 o'clock, and you ask mom again, come on, how about 10:30? It's a loser generally. But we did see a motion for reconsideration granted earlier in this case, not long ago, relating to the Gretchen Voss notes. She's the writer for Boston Magazine, I believe it's called. And there were a number of interviews she did with Karen Reed. One of them was just no attorneys around, nothing recorded, all just notes. and the prosecution wanted those notes. The court initially said, yeah, you can have them. Motion for reconsideration, and the court, that would be Judge Bev, she reconsidered and prevented the prosecution from getting those notes. She drew the distinction between, things done in a more open interview with an attorney, things that turned into an article where arguably this may or may not have, but more importantly, it chills the journalistic person, because who's going to believe them anymore? Who's going to talk to them anymore if those notes can just be coughed up? And again, no real shield law in Massachusetts. So a motion for reconsideration can work. This one, though, I think it's probably dead on arrival, but here's what it's about. As everybody knows, Dr. Crosby is the expert on dog bite stuff, right? According to, I don't know, what is it according to, a seminar, some YouTube that he watched? I don't know. Not that YouTube doesn't help you. It's very helpful, but is it enough to be an expert in dog bites? Obviously, this guy is going to be used to rebut Marie Russell, Dr. Russell, who has been the defense expert, who's testified that the marks on Officer John O'Keefe's arm were caused by a dog. Chloe, who knows, but a dog. And that counters the argument the prosecution has that it was the taillight shards and fragments that ripped his arm up. So, of course, the prosecution now wants their own expert to rebut that and say, no, that wasn't dog bite. And here's how I know. I went to Chloe, the dog. I got a mold of Chloe's face and teeth. And in my expert opinion, they don't match up with the wounds on Officer John O'Keefe's arm. Okay, so there's the argument. Judge Bev said, pretty good. You're in. You're in.
Right.
No Lanigan, Daubert Lanigan hearing, not like the 2-day version that Dr. Russell went through. Nope, that's okay. We don't need that. He's good. He's good to go. So this is a motion to say, look, Judge, you got to look at this more carefully. And what we did is we looked at it and looked at the focus of the motion for reconsideration. And it's a very important prong of Lanigan, Daubert Lanigan, which is the methodology. Okay, that's one of the things you need. You have to prove it's an existing and accepted methodology for whatever testing you're doing, whatever results you're coming up with, whatever opinion you're making. And the defense position is that there ain't no methodology here. Just because Hank Brennan says in an affidavit, it's credible, it's reliable, there's a great method here, does not create what you need under the standard of law. It's only one of 5 prongs under Daubert Lanigan, but it's the key one in this case. It relates to reliability, credibility, what has been done with this science in the past that this guy is connected to. Any peer review, any articles, anything. And we were talking about this earlier, under the good old fashioned Kelly Fry standard, it was a little less specific. You have those 5 prongs. You had the big issue, which was, is the science accepted in the scientific community or in the medical community? So it's kind of vague. And so the new standard under Daubert is a little more refined, but you still get to that key issue, methodology. You can't just create some science and then get it in front of a jury, unless you're in Bev's court.
Well, here's what she's going to say. Because of the first motion, Alessi argued, look, we don't even need a hearing on the issue because the fact on the face of it, right, this fails Daubert Lanigan. There's simply no methodology. Now they say you have to reconsider, but the last line of their brief says it would be extremely prejudicial to the defendant to have this in, but in the alternative, and at a minimum, an evidentiary hearing on Dr. Crosby is compelled, right? So, I mean, quite frankly, if I were them right now, I'd also make, even though it's late, a late motion in limine and saying, hey, we didn't think that we needed a motion in limine because we had a motion to exclude the testimony under law. But now we wanted a motion in limine and we want a hearing. And she's going to say you're too late, but you've created those appellate issues.
Yeah, I think I'm actually a little surprised that they didn't argue that in the alternative, just so they'd cover their bases, right?
Right.
But they didn't. They're going to get it, and let's face it, it's going to be denied. Would you be just shocked if it's not denied?
Shocked.
So, we hate to look at these things in this context, but this is all about, at this point, what appellate issues are we going to have if there is a conviction? This will be a big one. And so they're papering the trail so that when it comes to an appeal, if necessary, they got it. They got it covered. We had the motion Then we had the motion for reconsideration. It's 2 strikes and Bev's out, but it may become back on appeal.
Yeah, shocked. Since we do a lot of movie themes here, we did The Godfather, we've done Sing Sing. That's from Casablanca. Shocked.
Oh, very good. That was a little more veiled reference. I did not pick up on that.
A little more veiled references, right? But let's go back to Aidan before we go to the other motions in limine we have that were initially on our schedule, so to speak. How is he going to be able to stream the trial and comment on it if he's on the witness list and can't watch things? I mean, he has to be an exception. He's got to make a motion to be an exception.
Well, wait a minute. He's not gagged as a witness.
No, but the sequestration order, the state is seeking that people can't watch other people's testimony. So if he's a witness, he can't watch it. If just like if you were, you can't watch other people's testimony.
Yeah.
So then he's going to have to make, he's going to have to make a motion to be exempt on the basis that he's a journalist in some way. I mean,
because all the family members are. Remember, the family members are exempted from that.
Well, that's the motion. One of the motions in limine that's going to be heard next Tuesday.
It'd be shocking if they are not exempted.
Right, because they were exempted the first time. But so they put him in this box unfairly, I think, because they're just trying to get him, right? They're just trying to get him. Maybe they're going to come after you, Michael. Maybe you don't have to worry about reapplying for our press pass, which you're going to do. Okay.
Again.
So it really. Yes, and this is the same question. Scott McGinnis, wouldn't Turtle have to be sequestered witness or all the witnesses sequestered? Yeah, one of the motion for the state is to sequester all the witnesses, right? Not only until they testify, but even after they testify, except for the family members. Because usually after you've testified, you can come and sit in the courtroom, right? But their motion is not to have that. Now, they've thought this out, okay? So we have Turtle Boy, okay? He can't then sit in the courtroom even if we do call him, assuming that we really did put him on the witness list to call him, assuming that we really, if we did call him and he's under indictment, come on, he's got to take the fifth because what lawyer would let him talk except that he wants to talk and say, kind of raise the middle finger, right?
There might be a lot of objections for non-responsive to some of his answers.
Too generous. Thank you again. Another $10 donation. Linda's authentic, smart, and real. Thank you. And Michael, too.
Hey, I got the parenthetical. All right, I'm in. Okay.
Honest coverage. You are the new Law 2 goats. Much respect. And if Michael Bodden, that's my husband, is my hero, new subscriber, I'll share and be here for you every show. He's my hero, too. I kind of married him. We've been married for, it'll be 25 years in November.
That's right.
Yeah, Okay, so everybody wants to know about my necklace. Sue, thank you so much.
I know I do. I know I've been dying to hear about
Shy Gal and Sue Cameron. So I just had a feeling that you had to go somewhere near water, right? I just had a feeling. So I wore a blue dress and I put on, this is actually a belt, okay? It's a very old vintage Chanel belt, but it's got fish and all sorts of stuff on it.
Wow, you've given this a lot of thought, actually.
Yeah, I gave it a lot of thought as to where you could be. And I didn't know. And everyone told me, none of us knew where you were going. We just know you were going and you had to be on the road.
I wasn't sure either. I ran out of gas here, so it just kind of worked out.
Okay. And gave us some interesting. But yeah, it's a vintage old piece. And it goes with Michael being on the Hudson River. I didn't realize it was the Hudson.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of those creatures would survive in the Hudson River, but speaking of the Hudson River and your buddy RFK Jr., right? He did
he was the Hudson River.
He did a lot of work on the Hudson River, and it's made a world of difference. This is really used as a channel for commerce more than anything else. Up this way is Albany, capital of the state, and then obviously down this way. In fact, Linda, if you lean out your window, I might be able to see you from here. It's a relatively
but
clear
day. that train coming through. That's one of the nicest train routes.
I love it. It's such a nice train. I lived in this area, which is part of the reason I know this story and everything else. And it was such a dream of a commute. You basically are just going right down the Hudson River. It's beautiful.
Right. It's absolutely beautiful. You always make sure you sit on the left side,
yep.
And then you go down that river.
And in the winter, coming from California, it's like, okay, it might snow or whatever. This thing is massive. It would freeze over on some of the worst winters. freeze
Wow.
over, and they would have
Wow.
to use, because they still had commerce, they had to get people moving. They would use those like icebreaker type ships to
Oh, wow.
break
I
through.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
to break through the ice. And it's been I've been here 21 or 2 winters, and probably 3 or 4 of them that happened.
Yeah, and interesting. So I mean, I learned a lot. So we had the breaking news about Aidan. We had the breaking news of filing a motion for reconsideration, which is probably going to be denied. The breaking news is there's a complete witness list from the Commonwealth out. We're going through a little bit of it. I didn't see anything that was really worth reporting on, except for the Aidan situation. And then we have some older news, but some stuff that we haven't gotten into. And that had to do, well, it's not really old when you think about it. Where are we now? We're on Thursday, right?
Yes, Thursday,
There was,
the unlucky Thursday,
yeah,
the
yeah.
13th. Yes.
I like it, Thursday the 13th. There was a 39 document dump of motions in limine that had to be filed on Monday. Then they had to be docketed by the court, and everyone's been going through them. And we've talked about some of them, and we're going to be talking about more of them come Monday, just before the motions in limine are being heard on Tuesday. But there were a couple we wanted to go over with you tonight. Boy, thank you very much. And Deb, Judicial Bench Award. Yeah, I love that,
No,
Judicial
that's
Bench
great.
Award. We're thinking about, we got inspired by Aidan. We're thinking about having some of our segments, or one of our members groups called Justice Riders. Remember, we still have that case of Stephanie from Oregon, 1968. I'm just teasing it out to you that we have to put together, that we're going to try to solve together. But we kind of gotten taken aside between ASAP Rocky and Karen Reed. But we're going to get to that. Trust us, and all. We're thinking about maybe having people that are in on that and running groups about that, to try to find who killed her. And I'll give you more information on that, because you won't be able to find it by yourself. Okay. It took me, and I knew who her name was. It took me, about 3 weeks to find all the information that I needed about having people run that. And maybe we'll call that group the Justice Riders, a group that is able to help us try to find who killed Stephanie. That's all I'll give you right now. But Auntie Deb, thank you. I just enjoy the two of you so much. Thank you for being real. Linda, may I just tell you, I worship your husband's mind. I love his mind too. I think he's absolutely terrific. He's simply, no matter what you want to throw out, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, he's going to give you his opinion, and it's going to be and all. And people have asked me, is he a witness on this case? The answer is, I don't know. Okay. You saw my face last night when Aidan said, isn't he on the witness list? And I went,
So hey, let me ask you this: how did we find out Aidan is on the list?
the Commonwealth published their list. I don't know if the
They
defense
did.
list has
Okay,
been
because that was
published.
the question.
We'll find out. We'll find out if the defense list.
Aha.
There's the Commonwealth list. Aidan's on here, right? If we
You see,
enlarge
is
it.
that alphabetical? I can't read it all that
Yeah,
closely.
there he is, Aidan.
Oh, there we go.
Yes,
Thank
there we
you.
go.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Missy.
Thank you, Missy. There he is. And so, so there he is, right? And so, I guess we'll all find out together when the defense publishes their list. If my husband Michael's
Well,
on
go
it.
up to the top. It's I don't think there's a Baden on there, but go ahead.
No, I didn't see anything that
I
looked
see
like
a Boudreaux, and we know what that's about.
Yeah.
What else? Was that the top 9, or the first 8 were missing?
There were 4. There's 4 pages of the list.
Okay.
We just took a screenshot of the one. There you go. Here's the first page. Okay. Yeah. Now comes the Commonwealth in the above caption matter, and provides the following list of witnesses who may be called to testify in this case. And then
I see no Baden on there.
Yeah, and then the may, though, puts them into the sequestration unless the judge somehow exempts them out of the sequestration. Okay.
I noticed they list that as civilian witnesses. Do they have a second chunk that says?
Yeah, they have police witnesses. I just dropped my papers on the floor.
Oh no,
Missy, do we have the other ones loaded? The other 3 pages loaded or not?
I want to see if Proctor's on there. I'm assuming he will be.
Oh yeah, I didn't. You know what? I mean, all the talk we talk about Proctor, I assume he's going to be on here as a witness. But I didn't look. We have to find out if he's on here, right? Right? We have to find out if he's on here. Missy, can you look while we're talking? Yeah. You know, I have to tell you guys, you're all complimenting us. There was one commenter on it's the same commenter, it's done it twice. Thinks that I am the worst person in the world. Thinks
I
that
don't know if I'd
somehow
go that far.
thinks well, you saw the thinks that I
I
am.
saw it.
She thinks that I'm drunk. Thinks that I'm on drugs. Thinks that you, Michael Bryant, should get rid of me. I mean, I don't know. Wait, throw me out the 18th story window? I don't know.
I told
You
my
know.
uncle not to send that stuff in, but I could not stop him.
You know, and on the other side, somebody thinks I'm dry, but it was a compliment. Dry meaning like you were really good. You know, I keep forgetting that words have opposite meanings here. So here we go. Let's see. What's this? Massachusetts State Police. There he is.
There he is.
There he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and again, it's out of caution as much as anything. But I would, I just can't wait to see how they work around him if they don't bring him on.
Yeah, I don't see, but you know, they obviously have a different, I don't know. Let me say, their vibe is going to be a lot different. Yes, I thank you, Mr. I wanted to know, NC
just learned that.
retired. Just learned. Yes, Turtle Boy is on the list.
Speaking of Proctor and the Proctor family and the Proctor factor, what do you think about the letter that they issued today? This was from the Proctor family, but his wife was prominent in the quotes about how they've been mistreated, and that everybody's using Proctor as a scapegoat for what Karen Reed did. And, he was just doing his job. And the fact that he's a potty mouth is just a function of him being upset that his buddy and colleague, Officer John O'Keefe, died. What do you think of all that?
I think number one, it's a way around the gag order, right? Number two, they said, well, we're thinking, defamation was a word that was used. So I think they're trying to scare people. Maybe they're going to sue for defamation for some of the things that have been said against him and the family. If defamation is the new, as we talked about it in the past, and we'll talk more, I think, in the upcoming few days. Defamation is a new darling of everybody suing, but they're not so easy. You think they're easy cases. They're not easy. Because if there's truth, if there's truth, is a defense, right?
A complete defense to defamation, the truth. And that I can't imagine in the Proctor factor scenario, things that we haven't already heard that have been proven true, that he said, that he suggested, that he reported, that he said them. I don't know. And remember, another key issue to prove that you've got a case in defamation, you have to prove that your reputation has been reduced in the your relevant community, whatever that is. In this case, the cops. You have to prove that whatever was said against him reduced the public image of him. I don't think anything anybody else said may have reduced his image. I think things he said may have reduced his image.
Yeah. Unless, of course, it's defamation per se, like you're a murderer.
Yeah, but that's a crime. Yeah.
That's a crime. If you charge somebody with a crime, right.
Back in the day, we're speaking of our friend here in Irvington who killed a girl.
Yeah, what was his name again?
Full circle. What is his name again? Alfred Fish. Albert Fish.
Fish. Amazing. He was on the Hudson, right?
He's right here.
Yeah, and my necklace has a fish on it.
So where was I going with that? Oh, back in the day, one for pro se, you would have to have either some accusation as doing something criminal, or having a sexual disease or some sort of disease that suggested you were promiscuous. That one kind of disappeared over time. But back in the day, if you accuse somebody of having, syphilis and they didn't, that was actionable per se, which means what?
That means you don't have to prove direct damages. They're presumed.
Yeah, you just go right to the damage element. Yeah,
you go right to the damage element. They're presumed. So it'd be an interesting thing. But I think that's a way around the gag order. And that was suggested not by me. That was suggested by Disney Nerd. Disney Nerd, are you on here right now? I think you are. I think Disney Nerd is on here. Not Disney. Disney Nerd. I think I did see Disney Nerd, but the Disney Nerd's on unless she's a moderator. Where's the plow driver? Lucky on the list. Erica M.S. I don't know. I assume it's going to be on the. I assume it's going to be on the Feds list. I mean, there's right there. Yeah, Disney Nerd. There you are. Yeah, I'm giving you total credit for that because I think that was a great pickup. So why don't we go into a couple of these MOLs, motions in limine, MO.
Yeah, that's what,
motion.
when all the back and forth, I always abbreviate that stuff. When I was with the firm, you have a list of all these abbreviations, and ours for motions in limine was MOL. Other people are going, what, MOL? What is that? Because it sounds not
Some other
quite
people's
right.
are MIL, right?
Yeah, but we used to do MOL, so
Yeah,
that's why
MOL.
I use that weird one.
Yeah, or mob, the mob, right? Is that what stands for the mob? A mobster, mob was female. Mall.
Oh, a mall, like a
Mall, like
a mall,
Mall Bryant.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my
Prince
Prince Lover, Saul Steve's. Someone smart to Harry says to Prince Lover, Saul, oh, it passed me by. Okay, passed me by. You saw somebody was on the there you go. Saul Steve Scanlon on Commonwealth list, not called in the first trial. So, what do you think that's about? Let us know in your comments, okay? But let's get to this. I want to talk about the first one, which is the Commonwealth's motion in limine to preclude reference to and redact the manner of death contained on the victim's death certificate. Now, Massachusetts uses a standard death certificate because it gets recorded in the Registry of Vital Records and Statistics. It's actually one recommended nationally for everyone to use, so there can be a symmetry, there can be uniformity in how you record death statistics, right? And it has the standard, your name, your date of birth, the place of death, which they put as Good Samaritan Medical Center in Brockton, never married, and then they have the cause of death, meaning blunt impact of injuries and hypothermia. Now, we don't have a great copy of this, so that's why I'm reading
Misty,
it.
do you have that, or do I need to put that up? I can't remember how we were working this out.
I think you have it, but it's real. It's kind of but so I want to read it because there's three things on here that's really important. But the one thing with which the government is trying to do, okay? Oh, by the way, please pass the pepper. Says thanks for the donation. I finally laughed at one of Michael's jokes.
Finally, what a tough.
Or as my Siri calls him, Michel Briant. Okay, Michel Briant. And before we get to that, while you're looking for that, C.V. Sharp asks, question mark. So if Crosby is a rebuttal witness, would he be on this list or a different list? He'd probably be on this list. The judges now, like in the federal court, are requiring even rebuttal witnesses, unless it's something you can't anticipate. If you can't anticipate a rebuttal witness, they got to be on the list. If you can't anticipate them, they don't have to be on the list.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a shocker. Everybody, they've been fighting about this guy and will continue to fight about him now in this motion for reconsideration. So part of the reason for the witness list is to avoid surprising the other side and to let the court organize. But yeah, no surprise, Crosby, he's going to be there if the court doesn't change your mind.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about the meteorologist, by the way. I'm just assuming that.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I know Aidan was just assuming he's in as well.
Yeah,
but that's the more I think about it, that's the guy who's going to come in and say, "Yep, grad was hard as rock." Well, okay, thanks for that. So yeah. I don't know.
And I always think the defense is trying to keep him out. I think that's good for the defense because he's pretty drunk, right? And if he fell and hit his head on hard as a rock, that could be his cause. What caused the
I think that
impact injuries of head and hypothermia.
Yeah, so I think that cuts both ways. I'm not sure if I'm on the defense. I'm fighting that hard. That could be, as I like to call it, a turd. As we like to, it's there's certain things that you pretend to be really upset about and you fight about, but the bottom line is, nah. I'm not really
you really want him in, yeah, but I don't know if I would have thought about it. As I said once before, but weeks ago, I said if I were called in to review this case for a trial team, which is a lot of times I am, I'm not on this case. I would say, hey, what are you fighting for that for? Because if he's that drunk and he falls and he hits his head, and then he can't get up because he's hurt, he's cracked his skull and all, and then the hypothermia sets in. That's a valid alternative manner of the way he died, the blunt impact of injuries of head and hypothermia. But there was a couple of things on one other thing on here before we get to the motion. The part one is the cause of death. Okay, part two says, if I can read it, and it was very difficult. It says other significant something contributing to death.
Factors, something like that.
Yeah, other significant And I couldn't find a good death certificate. Other significant something contributing to death, but something resulting in underlying cause, but not resulting in underlying cause. So other significant something contributing to death. Maybe you all find a better copy of the death certificate online than I have. What could those other significant things that contribute to death but not resulting in the underlying cause be? What is that? I mean, I think that's. I mean, in fact,
get Dr. Bond on the line.
yeah. Well, I better wait because I don't want to be accused of tampering with the witness or hating the witness. I mean, I have no idea, so I don't want to be accused of that. But it came when I was getting ready, when we decided to do like the three important motions today to keep on the podcast, on the streaming. Other significant something. What are those, and why weren't anyone mentioning those in the trial? I mean, we'll see. But anyhow, the subject of
this is from the Commonwealth, right?
Well, this is actually the death certificate. This is I'm still in the death certificate.
So in the conclusion, those are
part 2. Yeah, it says other something, right? Because we don't have the autopsy report. That's not public, right? And then the certifier is Dr. Scorty Bello, the MD, and then manner of death. Remember, there's a cause of death, which is the blunt impact injuries of the head and hypothermia, and then the manner of death, which are those 4 or 5, homicide, suicide, although they call it death by suicide now. Undetermined, natural, accident, right? The 5, right? Could not be determined. So manner of death could not be determined. So, and the other doctor they brought in also said the same thing, testified for the defense, but was a state doctor. And then, of course, you had the ARCA people who couldn't testify as to the medical issue, but could testify that the car, the SUV, did not hit John O'Keefe. But what the prosecutors want to keep out, the Commonwealth wants to keep out in their motion in limine, is preventing the defense from telling the jury that the manner of death could not be determined. That's a major motion. This is a significant motion. Okay,
it really is. It is. I mean, if you're on the defense and your job is to poke holes in the prosecution's case, you don't have to prove a damn thing. But if it helps the jury, be more confused about the cause of death, I want that in.
Right. And what I think the defense pointed out is that this is exculpatory exculpatory stuff, right? If you can't determine a manner of death being homicide, that's exculpatory towards her because you have charged her with you have charged her with murder, which is a legal term.
Yeah, very different. Medical homicide, legal homicide, different things.
But usually you have homicide in the medical term, and then that gets converted to either manslaughter or whatever.
Yeah.
But here,
so this had to come up in the first trial, right?
I don't know. It supposedly it did, but I don't remember, and I think that they're misinterpreting. So what the Commonwealth is relying on a case. It's called Commonwealth versus Ellis, right? And if you Google it, you find it pretty easy. And let me just tell you that in New York State, medical examiners are not allowed in court to go to the manner of death. They can't tell you. In New Jersey, where I was a prosecutor, of course. Yeah, what was the manner of death? What did you conclude the manner of death was, doctor? It was a homicide when you're trying. But in New York State, you can't. So there is a difference in each state. But in Massachusetts, the Commonwealth says in this Commonwealth versus Ellis, in a criminal trial, that maybe it's safe not to include the manner of death. Okay, but when it's undetermined, that's not the manner of death. So even if you take the Ellis case and say, well, you shouldn't, it's within the judge's discretion, and maybe you shouldn't cause the manner of death because it'll affect the jury. It'll give them, the medical examiner says homicide. Okay, oh, she's guilty of murder, right?
Right.
But if you can't say it, you're not saying a manner of death. So how could this case is inapplicable in my view?
Interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to see how Judge Bev handles this. Remember in the Daniel Penny case, which we covered, I was in court for that here in Manhattan, and the ME was the focus of a lot of argument and analysis and challenge, because not because she couldn't talk about the manner of death, but because the cause, she couldn't come up with the cause. Was it really asphyxiation from the chokehold? Did it was it drugs in his system? Was it sickle trait? All of those things were so unclear, and she never even got to what she couldn't talk about anyway, which was the manner of death. So the ME is so critical. Were you kind of surprised we didn't see an ME, or that we don't have a defense ME for this?
Well, except they used the prosecution MEs who said there was no manner of death. I mean, and the reason why, like in New York State, why you can't say it is because they think it's too prejudicial to a defendant, right? Let's go by the science. What did the science show? What did the facts show? But here, if you don't say, if the medical examiner can't say it's undetermined, that's prejudicial to the defendant. It should come in. It's exculpatory. It's really. I don't think it was argued exactly this way. I think this is turning, and if it was, it's turning the law on its head. It's really ridiculous, because it's just ridiculous. I mean, that's all I can say.
Whose name is on that one?
Michael Morrissey, Hank Brennan, Adam Lowley, and Laura McLaughlin. Everybody signed it. So
what was the top name? What was the top name?
Morrissey. Morrissey is the district attorney, and Brennan is second.
He's the no-show.
Yeah, he's a no-show. So sui generis, thank you again for your donation, and continue to watch it. This could be me, your daughter, your mom, your sister, aunt. If Karen Reed didn't have money shed. I think it's the Sheed. If they didn't have money,
no
she
doubt.
had be in jail for the past 3 years. I weep for Karen Reed and this injustice. And absolutely no doubt. And that would happen. And that happens to a lot of people. That's why, I was a prosecutor. I always tried to do, as Michael Bryant said, the right thing, right? Prosecute the right person. And when I didn't think they had the right person, I'd go up against it and say, sorry, this is not it. And cases got dismissed, right? But you have to have some gumption, and you have to be willing to take your knocks and say it. And it truly is an injustice to retry this case right away, without even talking to the jurors and seeing what the problem is. So that was the first thing I wanted to talk about, because I think that's a really important motion, and I can't wait to see exactly what this says. Other significant something. On
the certificates, a little
part 2. So if you all find part 2 and send it to me, thank you. We'll take a look at it. Maybe we'll talk about it when you're there next Tuesday, and if they're arguing this motion. I think that should be the next time we should talk about this motion. Kay Schmidt, by the way, gifted 5. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Kay.
5 Justice Served TV memberships. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. And then the other 2 motions we want to talk about are related for the motions in limine. And again, we picked these out because we thought they were extremely important. And this has a prosecution and a defense motion. They're both in the same area. The prosecution is the Commonwealth's motion in limine to admit results of defendant's blood draw at Good Samaritan Hospital and resulting serum conversion and retrograde extrapolation. The defense files a motion in limine to exclude the serum plasma ethanol concentration, blood ethanol concentration conversion, and corresponding retrograde extrapolation analysis. Now, let me just give you just a quick a primer, as Michael would say, on this. So usually if you have a blood draw, normally you try to have 2 blood draws. I've had cases. I had the blood draw, and Jason Williams, the basketball player, excluded on all the work I did for the team, based on reports from this man, Dr. Rockerby. Okay, he is one of the leading experts. He's in Canada on retrograde extrapolation. What you do is you take a blood draw, and I'm going to jump apart here because there's serum analysis, but they come up just like in a breathalyzer. They come up with a blood alcohol level, and it may be 4 hours after an accident. So, but you really want to know what was the blood alcohol level at the time of the accident, right? So that process of going backwards is called retrograde extrapolation in scientific studies. And there's a lot of controversy around it because some states like New Jersey, if you have a retrograde extrapolation, that's it. You can't attack it. It is what it is. All right. Unless it's by a blood draw, that's only one blood draw, which is what we have here. We have one blood draw. When she went into the hospital, that's Karen Reed, for, according to the defense, for her grief. She was just ridden with grief. And they took, when they went in the hospital, they took a blood draw from her, right? Without necessarily telling her that this was going to be, then there was going to be a warrant and it was going to be used by the police, right? And the police used it to come up with a blood alcohol level through the serum, through a serum conversion as to what would have been in her blood, and then extrapolated it backwards. And by the way, there's two separate numbers. There's two separate numbers that they've come up with in the blood draw.
Okay,
that's why.
Let me ask the witness a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
When was the blood draw? What time?
I have it right here, and hold on a second. It was, I actually highlighted it. Okay.
I was trying to remember.
7:26 a.m.
And then we know that the alleged incident was just after or at, like 12:15, 12:20. So roughly 7 hours later. Okay, continue.
Right. So the hospital performed both a blood work and a urine drug test. No drugs were found in the urine, right? And you can't use urine to do alcohol because it only gives you, if somebody had consumed alcohol, it doesn't give you any type of levels. So even if that's, but they came up with a reading, and I'm not going to specifically talk about the reading. And then they extrapolated back on conversion factors, and then retrograde extrapolated back to have a certain calculation 8.5 hours later. And all. And I'm actually not going to read you the retrograde extrapolation. I'm not going to read those numbers because I think that's going to also be in play here. But there were two separate numbers, and by two different, depending on the first trial or the second trial, as to what her blood would have been at the time. And they're going to argue. So what the prosecution wants it in, they say it's good science. Defense says, wait a second, you don't have any reliability here. And why is that? Because this wasn't taken pursuant to the principles of a state laboratory. We actually don't know how this was taken. For instance, if you take a blood draw and you use alcohol on the needle, right, that's going to give you an alcohol content, right? And so we don't know if these, if what the hospital did, because they usually have different procedures than what you would do if you're going for a police blood draw as opposed to just a hospital taking blood to see, how we're going to treat the patient. We don't know what they did here. Did they clean her with alcohol? How did they take this, right? How did they take this blood draw? What were the procedures? What were the protocols and all? And then the Massachusetts State Lab takes the one blood draw, and then they calculate it and say, okay, based on this one, we're going to calculate back. And the fact that Reed consented to the alcohol blood test is not an issue. No one's fighting that because they know that it's a blood draw. But they're saying that when you do it by a police agency, it's reputable. It has to go by certain procedures, certain standards, and therefore it is reliable. And as a matter of fact, and I've seen this in hospital reports. When we had Gigi over here at the Peninsula Hotel, who was convicted of manslaughter for killing her son, the prosecution wanted a murder charge. The medical records there said the same thing as here. The report is intended for use in clinical monitoring and management of patients. It's not intended for the use in employment-related drug testing or court-related proceedings. Samples are not routinely testigated for adulteration but are assumed to be within a normal physiological pH range of 5 to 8. So what they're saying is the hospital itself admits that this is not a blood draw to be used in court proceedings. So how then are you, the Massachusetts Commonwealth, going to extrapolate it back, using a blood serum analysis and say it matches all the requirements of reliability that you would have if you had a warrant and went in and said, take it pursuant to certain procedures.
Right. Even if somebody's, giving one following a DUI arrest, that's all very procedurally set up for that specific purpose. And obviously, in this case, the numbers are not favorable to Karen
Karen
Reed.
No doubt, right.
At the time of the operation of the motor vehicle, they needed not just for the intoxication element, but also it really bleeds all over everything else, right?
Right,
In
right.
terms of her actions. So I get it, makes sense, and we'll see what they do with that.
So, so I think this is kind of this is a really important motion because number one, you have two numbers. Is the retrograde extrapolation going to be attacked? Are there going to be some limits put on it? Is you know, we'll see. You know, it's clear. And this motion, by the way, was signed by Alan Jackson, Elizabeth Little, Yannetti, and then Robert Alessi at the end, the last one. So it looks like he's the one that may argue this whole issue of retrograde extrapolation. They really should have consulted. I assume he's still alive, but if not, his textbook is considered like the textbook of how you do, and that's Alcohol and Drug Intoxication by Russell A. Rockerby from Canada.
Right.
Yeah, that's who I use. Yeah, I know, right on your list. So anyhow, those are a taste of what we thought were two important motions we want to bring to you, mainly because, you know, I concentrate, not, you know, I do a lot of forensic
work. That's your
thing.
thing.
That's been my thing since I was a prosecutor, you know, signed to the crime scene unit. So that's my thing.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Then. Well, I think we got a few more that we'll pick up over the next couple of days, but I think we're geared up. We're prepped for next Tuesday, right?
Right. We're prepped for next Tuesday. Tomorrow night, we're going to run a comment show. Monday night, we're going to go through some more motions that'll be decided on Tuesday. And then Monday night, you're going to drive up to
that's the universal signal for driving? Could be cheers. Cheers.
On St. Patrick's Day. On St. Patrick's Day. So we want you to be careful driving up this on St. Patrick's Day, because while we know you are a perfect driver, we're not sure about everybody else on the road.
It'll be, I mean, early enough in the afternoon, you hope that you know, people are
before we go, we have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Okay. Oasis Cat, breaking news. Habeas corpus petition denied, certificate of appealability granted. Karen Reed will appeal. Okay, so that means that, remember when they were in court on Tuesday before they went to, came back to, when you were there, to Canton, they were over at federal court for about an hour and a half. And so that's the habeas to stop this trial. But the court did grant, which is really interesting, a certificate of appealability, which means they can appeal right now to
kind
the
of extraordinary
Circuit Court of
writ,
Appeals.
some places would call it. And this was basically saying that it was a double jeopardy situation based on those juror affidavits. That's what failed at the state level. Now, obviously, failed at the federal level too.
Well, only for the habeas petition for the immediate remedy, to stop this trial from going forward. So we'll see what happens when it gets to the appellate court, when it gets to the appeals court, Circuit Court of Appeals. So,
well, it better happen fast.
It better happen fast. April 1st, April Fool's Day is coming upon us fast. Michael Bryan, I know you've probably been standing out there all this time.
Check this out. I'm just going to sit here and watch. Where'd the sun go? I know it's here somewhere. Hold on.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. There it is.
Oh, and tonight is the lunar. Tonight. Oh my God! Tonight's the lunar. Tonight's the lunar eclipse. By the way, the blood moon.
Oh, is it? Is that a rare one of some sort?
I think 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock or something around there. And since initially they were saying you wouldn't see it because the weather would be bad, if you just stay out there and don't ever
I'll just hang out
home,
here.
go back to Connecticut. If you don't go back to Connecticut, you'll be able to see it between 1 and 2.
Okay, I'll wake you up. I'll give you a call.
Great. And everybody else.
All righty. We'll see you next time. I'm Michael Bryan. Just try to do the right thing.
And before you go, I want all of you who've been texting and chatting, there's near 300 of you, please hit that like button right now, because that gets us into the algorithm. Hit the like button. The subscribe button costs you nothing. And memberships do, but thank you for Kay Schmidt for giving some. And then, of course, hit the share. And then the notify, and notify all. That way you'll get notified of everything, including tomorrow when Michael posts the part of the interview with Aidan Kearney dealing with, hey, are you going to be called as a witness? What are you doing? Kenny Bodden together with Justice Serve TV. We will see you tomorrow night at 6.